Now I've got a join here, a mortise and tenon join here, and I've purposely made it sloppy. In fact, well, I could say I purposely made it very sloppily, but I'm not a very good joiner anyway. That's why I'm a wood turner. What I've done is cut the tenon itself quite roughly on a radial arm saw, and I've left all the saw marks in there, and that's going to provide a good key in for the epoxy glue and to make it that joint even stronger still. Now I'm going to mix up some of the 300. Now I've got a pack over here that's already open, just to show you how it is mixed up and actually what it does look like. It is a gel, and the gel is a really good feature of it in a sense, because it doesn't run, does it? It will stick to a vertical surface and it won't run down that surface.
You can put a centimetre daub up on a vertical surface and she'll stay there. And that could be handy with masonry as well. I mean, these glues have got multiple applications to have in the workshop, and stonework,
that's exactly
brickwork,
right.
Fantastic.
That's exactly right. And I've got a few paddock fences that need a bit of fixing, and this epoxy gel is going to be ideal for fixing up the hinges on that. Now, I'm measuring it out at the moment. It's measured 2 to 1. Now this, the bigger container is the 2, the smaller container obviously is the 1. Now I've just got a spoon. A very simple way of measuring is a spoon, level it off with what I've got is a palette knife here, very handy things in the workshop, onto a, well, this was a lid from a jar of honey or a tub of honey. Measure it out.
It's got a fair latitude too. It's very forgiving in that margin. So this is one epoxy that will always give you a good result.
I was hoping you were going to say that, because
it's pretty forgiving. Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not all that together careful about.
You see, you've got so much strength in the material, even if the margin's a little out, it's still got more than enough for your wood joint. So
I'm going to make sure that I clean my spoon before dipping it in part A, or else I might set something off that I shouldn't. And I'm going to clean the palette knife as well, give that a wipe down on this rag, just level that out. As Peter was saying, it's quite forgiving if you don't get your proportions exactly right. But like most epoxies, whether it be a resin or a glue, you need to mix them well, don't you, Peter?
Yes, and this is a very simple, pasty sort of thing and very light. It is quite easy to blend. It's not a problem there.
So here we go. You can see how it sticks, how well it sticks to a surface. It doesn't run. And ideal for, I use this also as a filler occasionally, and I can colour this with...
Put sawdust in it.
You could put sawdust in it.
Match the wood colours using that, yep.
I've used the dyes.
Of course, you can smear it out to a relatively thin glue line as well. It's not just for this gap joining, is it? You can spread it out to a thin glue line. And you can create fillets. If you get a bread and butter knife and just work it up in a corner, right angle corner, you can create a fillet with it, which is very structurally strong.
So here we go. I'm applying the glue to the join, spreading it around the place. Now, because I know this is a sloppy join, I'm putting a liberal amount of the glue on here.
I might add too, Brendan, if you're doing a thinner joint and you had two very porous surfaces that are going to be sucking the wetness of the adhesive out, it's not a bad idea to put some on both surfaces. But we'll be fine on this particular job, but just another piece of info.
Very good. And then that joint can come together, and the glue is going to help fill up the voids.
Oh yes.
Now, one thing that you always are hoping that you don't get with joinery is squeeze out, and the joint being messed up by the glue, and I got a little bit too much there.
But see how it is easy to manoeuvre. It's very light. It's not a stiff resinous sort of material. It's just a soft gel.
So I'm wiping a bit of that off there and putting some in the hole instead, which is probably the way I should have done it.
Yeah, that'll get down to the bottom of the joint now.
There we have it.
Yep.
Now, should I clamp that, Peter?
No, not necessary. As long as you've got good contact, it's bridging. Unless you can, if you want to just get it a bit tighter. But I like to see a little bit of glue actually between the two, rather than squishing it right out, so to speak. And you can clean up with methylated spirits around the edge. It's a good, safe way to get rid of surplus.
And also, if you were to leave that to dry just a little bit, you can quite easily come along with a chisel and that will scrape off nice and easily as well.
Yes, you get it in what's called the cheese stage. When it's soft, you know, like cheese, it'll cut easily.
That's exactly right. Before it goes completely dry, it's still a bit soft and rubbery or cheesy, and you can get that, scrape that away with a chisel. Now, one thing I would like to mention about clamping is with epoxies that you can actually clamp so tight that you starve the join of glue. And the join will then fail because there's not enough glue in there.
Left there.
Now that's unlike PVA where you do need to clamp fairly firmly. I've come unstuck myself, excuse the pun, with epoxy and over clamping, so we've got to be careful of that.
Yeah, just a light, firm hold, that's it.
Now you wanted to show us something about, what did you call it, stitching or?
No, well, it's... being an impatient sort of guy years ago with my joinery efforts...
We'll just move these to one side.
I didn't have the patience for a 24-hour cure. I wanted the strength when I was doing early boat building work, the waterproof factor, and what I worked out for myself was to take some of the 24-hour set and ultimate strength epoxy 300 gel glue, and to do, for instance, I'll do on the edge here, to do a run here and there with your gel glue, such as this. Now I've purposely left gaps because if I was to put those together now, that would be 24 hours to cure, and I'd want to lightly clamp it as well. And if you're doing a large project and working with boats and ribs and bits and pieces, you can have a lot of clamps and a lot of wake downtime. So what I thought, well, why not use the 5-minute glue in conjunction with it? There's something that's going to set off... Oh, beaut, we've got some 5-minute glue there ready to go, have we?
Now, I've actually sucked up some of this 5-minute glue into these syringes. Now, that's an ideal way of dispensing, I found. So if you buy them in this can, you can just easily buy a couple of syringes, suck them up. Just make sure that you mark at least one of those syringes, and with this syringe here I've marked it with masking tape. So that little nail there has got masking tape on it, this has got masking tape on it, so I don't mix up the nails, and I also know which can I need to refill this from. Now
you're organised.
This is a mix in a ratio of 1 to 1.
Yes.
So, is it as forgiving as the other one?
Yeah, it's much the same, quite forgiving.
So I simply squeeze it out like that. I do, let's say, 4 passes of 1.
Now notice that Brendan's using syringes much like you could see in a hardware store and buy in syringes, but the savings of buying in this size pack are just enormous, and you can end up buying yourself another piece of equipment for your workshop with the savings if you look at it over a year or so. And it's just a simple matter of pulling it up with a syringe or spoon, and it's a forgiving mix, yeah.
However, you can buy that in tubes, is that correct?
Yes, we've got a tube pack as well, yep. A larger tube pack than you'd buy in the hardware stores, quite a lot larger.
So I'm mixing A and B together now, and I've just grabbed a stick, a flat stick to do so, mixing it thoroughly. I suppose the problem with mixing is that you tend to spread the glue further and further out. So
but this one is one where you've got to be on your feet and mix it quickly, because we've got a 5-minute setting time, so that means we've got a very short working time. We're probably only talking inside a minute before it starts to harden up. But that's a sufficient mix, that's all you need to do. Now getting back to what I was doing when I was doing my boat building was I put the 24-hour cure glue here, and this has got about an hour's pot life or open working time, so there's no rush, I can leave that there. Then I come along with the 5-minute glue, and I just simply put a dab in between those joints. I've been a bit generous with the glue there, but then you put your 2 pieces of wood together, and that can be lightly clamped, and again wipe off any surplus, but after 5 minutes that piece of wood there can be handled and planed and generally work. The 5-minute glue will be strong enough to hold the whole package together, but the slower setting but far stronger and fully waterproof glue, the 300 grade, will be still curing for the next 24 hours. But at least you can get on with the job and you don't have to have as many clamps.
Terrific. Now in the time that we've been doing other things, this little project, Peter, has managed to, the 5-minute glue has managed to dry. Now I'm not going to put that to its full strength test by wiggling that around, but you can see that it is dried sufficiently to hold it vertically like that at least, and give that a little bit more time and it'll be quite workable. Now I actually did a bit of a strength test on the 5-minute glue, and I glued 2 boards like this together, overlapped them so they were only glued over about that much area, clamped them to the bench and tried to break it. Now it broke the wood, it didn't break the glue bond. Now that was with the 5-minute stuff.
Yeah, and that's our weakest. So these epoxies are just cruising when they're bonding wood. Yes, absolutely. And you're getting all the waterproof qualities, etc.
Very good.